the players.
Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. I couldn't help but use that opening again. You may have seen it back in January of this year if you watched my Farming Simulator Becomes an Esport video. Which, bizarrely enough, based off that title, may make you think only about 3 people watched it. 28,000! 28,000! God bless you, people. God bless you. But that, of course, was a little montage of footage taken of me playing Resident Evil 2 Remake back in January when I was streaming. And it was an awesome experience. The Resident Evil series, I've said many times, but I'll say it again. The Resident Evil series, to me, is awesome. I loved it from all the way back in the 90s. I think it was 1997, maybe even 96. The first Resident Evil game came out. I remember very specifically how it was brought to me. My friend came around and he had himself a Sega Saturn. I couldn't afford a PlayStation or anything like that. No, I'm a common pauper, me. And he brought his Sega Saturn round and he said, have you seen the Resident Evil series? I was like, no, man. So he said, oh, this is the scariest game you'll ever play. The scariest game you'll ever play. And at the time, it was scary. Not in a, oh my god, I've got to hide behind the sofa kind of way. Although, when Resident Evil 2 came out on the PlayStation 1, another one of my friends, he refused to watch. He was too scared. He said he couldn't do it. He managed to watch the first couple of minutes and he was like, I can't watch. Now look at the types of games that we have with the remake of this and when I say hyper-realism, it's a very kind of realistic take based off what we had back in the pixelated world of 1996/1997. But the Resident Evil 1, phenomenal game. Resident Evil 2 was superb. The way that they opened up from the manor house into the city. It was a great way to progress. I'll get on to Resident Evil 3 momentarily, because this is what the video is about. Resident Evil 4 is one of my favourite games of all time. When it came out, it was just the evolution that the series needed. Instead of the fixed cameras, you now had an over-the-shoulder perspective. You had much more freedom of movement, etc. when it came to your character, aiming, all that sort of, you could go first person to aim down sights. Resident Evil 4 was wonderful. I adored it. I adored it with a passion. I've purchased it on every format going. Resident Evil 5 was a bit more, was kind of more of the same, but not as good. I don't know if it was the environment that didn't quite work or the characters that didn't quite work. And I think that's quite important because I've never gravitated towards Chris Redfield. He's just kind of come across very generic and very one note. Whereas I think there is so much more personality with the other characters. I think Claire Redfield has got much more about her than her brother. Leon Kennedy, he's this very, young policeman in Resident Evil 2 on his first day, and he's naive, but he has this, great sense of justice, and it's amazing to see how this character is thrust into this world and has to trust people that he necessarily shouldn't trust. The way that Ada Wong has him wrapped around her finger. So the Ada and Leon dynamic is wonderful. Jill, I always preferred Jill to Chris. Whenever I played Resident Evil 1, I always started off from Jill perspective, and I've always thought of Jill as Jill Valentine as the main protagonist of that series. I always thought of Chris as the secondary character. And I know, it's just the way we do things. I'm sure there are people who, push Chris first and have Jill as the secondary character. But it's just the way it's happened. And then in Resident Evil 5, I quite like what they did with Jill, with the way that she had the kind of Las Plagas-esque thing over her chest, ladies, brainwashing her, manipulating her, turning her into this completely different sort of character. So there was lots to love in this series, even though 5 and 6 particularly missed the mark massively. It kind of deteriorated into the silly film element of it, instead of having the intimate horror. I like to call it intimate horror. It's like Sleeping With Me, intimate horror. The intimate horror of the series, very claustrophobic, very confined. You're always feeling unease. At number 6, I felt as if I was just sort of playing a generic zombie action movie type of game. So it comes with great pleasure when they remade Resident Evil 2. We've had HD remakes and all this kind of stuff, little tweaks to the graphical settings of God knows how many of the Resident Evil series over the years. Resident Evil 4 particularly getting the do-over treatment from various sources. But when it was announced that they were going to do a bona fide remake of Resident Evil 2, I was so excited. So excited because I love that game. I think Resident Evil 2 is probably my second favourite out the bunch. It had my favourite characters, Leon and Ada. 2, 4, they take it. They skip a game with the characters. You got Jill and Chris, and then you got Ada and Leon, then you got Jill and So it kind of works off that sort of premise ish. Doesn't always, but ish, for the most part. And when it released, which was actually on my birthday of this year, I was not disappointed. I got myself the collector's edition purely because I wanted the Leon statue and I wanted all the gubbins because I just love the series. But I played it on the PC when I actually streamed it. And as you saw from that opening segment, it was glorious. We called them war cries and not all manly screams. We certainly didn't call them me crying like a baby. But there were just so many elements of that game which I absolutely loved. From the recreation of the Raccoon City area to the tweaks that they made to the storyline, the way that they took it away from the terrible B-movie script and tried to give it a better script, better acted, and ground it a little bit more in realism. Mr. X gon' give it to you. Was frightening beyond belief, especially in a very claustrophobic police station and beyond. And the way that the loading screens had been done away with, and you were literally moving from room to room to room, and so you had the organic flow which the series always truly deserved. Never mind how beautiful it looked, how well it played. I don't think there was any glitches. I cannot recall any glitches whatsoever. It just played phenomenally for me. And I was so happy. I think I'll treat you to another scene in case you missed it. Great. Somebody's going to come smashing through there. Because I tell you why, I know this is going to happen. Do you know why? Because when Leon does his playthrough, it's smashed. And he uses the club key to get in, and then he jumps through there. Fucking great. There's an ink ribbon. This is useless stuff. Portable safe. Look, I was in distress, okay? There were so many jump scares happening. My poor little heart, it couldn't have taken it anymore. And it just got to a point where I had to just run to safety and try and compose myself. But the simple fact is, they took a beloved game and they actually elevated it. And it's something that games companies in today's day and age, for the most part, aren't doing. Without getting salty, because this has been a very positive video. But I called it there and then, in January. I called it. I said, look, this is going to be a Game of the Year contender. I'm telling you right now. And I still agree to that. This weekend, I'm going to start working on my top 10 games of 2019. Bearing in mind it's top 10 games that I've played, so that, there could be some good games which I haven't played. So it's a very specific top 10. And I can guarantee you that Resident Evil 2 Remake is going to place highly in there. Where exactly? I cannot say. But it is going to place highly. And of course, it recently won the Golden Joystick Ultimate Game of 2019, which is high praise. It sold 4.7 million copies to date, which for Capcom is absolutely amazing. For the Resident Evil series is absolutely amazing. And so throughout the course of the whole year, we have been asking the question, will they remake Resident Evil 3? And Resident Evil 3 is probably the Resident Evil game on the main brand, not the offshoots, because I haven't played all the offshoot games, but on the main, the main timeline, should we say, that I probably know the least about. I played it on the PlayStation 1. I know that I completed it. I can sort of remember the ending that I got. I'm not going to say, in case some people don't and they want to experience the game when it comes out in the way that it's presented, because it will have tweaks and changes. I do, however, obviously remember the main characters, Jill Valentine, and Carlos Oliveira. And I, from what I can remember, they had a brilliant dynamic between them. They had a lot of chemistry between them. So it would be really cool to see that translate again. But let's just cut to the chase now. It's kind of official. It's kind of official. It's leaked on the PlayStation Network. So this is big. All the speculation, people putting together little fan vignettes or fan promotional material for the Resident Evil 3 remake. It's happening. And this is what we got. The Biohazard, of course, is what it's called in Japan. Biohazard, and it's RE as in the Resident Evil, of course. For us, it's just Resident Evil. And then the Z version is actually for Japan only. That's the uncensored version, which I think we just get as a regular version because of their censorship, slight tweaks to their censorship. So they release a Z version, which is the slightly gorier one, shall we say. But you can see the character models for Jill and Carlos, and they're looking brilliant. And rumour has it, again, this is just rumour, but rumour has it that production of this game is well underway. Development of this game is well underway, and it's actually anticipated to release next year. Now, if that is true, that's going to be absolutely outstanding. But we do believe, I say we, the royal we, I do believe that at the Games Award in a few days' time, I think on the 12th of December, on the Games Award, we are going to see the first trailer for this Resident Evil 3 remake. Hence the leak of the box art. This will most likely, of course, be the box art. There is another image which is released of Jill. Now, obviously, this is a photo taken of a screen, so it's grainy, but it gives you an idea of the level of detail that we're looking at with this character. And Jill's looking rather boss, to say the least. But this is the game that I remember the least about. The one that I probably played the least. I don't know why. I know that I enjoyed it when I played it. Again, you got the Nemesis chasing you around, whereas in Resident Evil 2, of course, you had Mr. X chasing you around. The Nemesis was always that wee bit scarier. There was something about the Nemesis which just freaked me out a little bit more than Mr. X did, and that's saying something, bearing in mind how intimidating he is. But I personally believe, I know this is a remake, but I personally believe this is a very positive step, because Capcom are taking a beloved franchise and they are elevating the material. They did it with Resident Evil 2. It was a smash hit. Resident Evil 3, probably a game which doesn't get the attention of others like Resident Evil 1, 2, 4. Kind of falls a little bit into the category of 3, 5, and 6. Not necessarily because of its content, but just because the other three are real standouts. And to put this onto the platform that it truly deserves. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. But after this, can we get a Code Veronica? Can we get a Code Veronica remake? Because I know Code Veronica was awesome. I played the shit out of Code Veronica as well. Dreamcast exclusive to start with before it moved over onto the PlayStation 2. And then Code Veronica X, I think, came out as well and stuff like that. But this opens the door to have these beloved games that are on platforms from 20 years ago, which, let's just be honest, don't hold up in today's day and age with our beautiful technology and our beautiful graphics and our, the way that we can render and have so much going on at once and don't need load screens for this, that, and the other anymore. And give it the facelift, give it the redo that will do it justice. And I think the remake of Resident Evil 2 did that game the justice it deserved. This could really bring Resident Evil 3 to an audience that may not necessarily have seen it, but would love to see this elevated in the same way as well. And of course, if these continue to be successes, it just keeps the door open for your Code Veronicas, for your Resident Evil 4, the Resident Evil 4 remake. Honestly, be still my beating heart. That gets me a little bit wet, if you know what I mean. So there we go. I know this is a gush video, but it's a great franchise, and I really appreciate what Capcom have been doing in recent years, trying to turn themselves around from certainly being in a rut, looking at what their audience are gravitating towards. You saw the love, care, and attention that truly went into the Resident Evil 2 remake, and if that love, care, and attention is put into Resident Evil 3 remake, and hopefully games beyond, we are the ones that benefit. We, the gamers, are the ones that truly benefit from that, and because we benefit, Capcom are going to benefit because they're going to get our bucks for it as well. So there you go, Resident Evil remake, Resident Evil 3 remake confirmed. Will we get our trailer in just under a couple of weeks' time? I'll obviously let you know. So I hope you enjoyed this gush. If you did, do get a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links are in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. What was that at the door? I'll be back. Bye for now.